Tá o ouro que eu tô falando pra vocês.
Tem ouro?
Ouro.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's pretty good.
Bastante ouro.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that there's not a lot of like placer mining going on. It sounds like there's never been any super large scale placer mining. And I think these areas have a lot of untapped potential.
From exploring an abandoned mining site that is said to contain $3 billion worth of gold to overcoming the several obstacles that stand in their way as they make their way to the gold. Here is how Parker Schnabel took over a $300 million bankrupt mine in Brazil. Looks like things are heating up, guys. For many years now, Parker and his crew have been mining away at the mines located in the United States of America, as well as the ones in Canada, as they do their best to get their hands on that gold that everybody craves. As the gold mining prodigy that he isn't going to settle on this level of success. No, he wants more. And like any respectable gold prospector, Parker knew that it was time to go exploring for the next fertile ground for this precious gold, even if it meant that he had to travel around the world to get exactly what he wanted. As a result, Parker has found his way into the jungles that are located deep within the country of Brazil. It is interesting because while there may be a lot of gold to be mined in Brazil, there seems to be a lot of explosive conflict when it comes to those interested in taking part in mining activities over there. Nonetheless, this is a great opportunity to come away with a lot of gold, so Parker and his crew are compelled to at least explore the place. After all, Brazil could be the next location for the expansion of Parker's gold mining endeavors. They would just have to accept that it may be more dangerous than he had ever imagined. They even had to fit him for a bulletproof belt. This takes us back to a few weeks ago when Parker and his crew arrived in Brazil so that they could investigate the gold mining activities that were taking place in Brazil. Apparently, they were experiencing their own recent gold rush, and Parker knew that he just had to look into what may be going on in Brazil. Who would blame him? Just take a look at this massive gold nugget that was found in Brazil in the 1980s.
They have the biggest gold nugget that was discovered in Serra Pelada in the 80s.
This just happened to be the biggest gold nugget that was found in recent times.
It's around 60 kilos, 1,600 troy ounces.
Like 130 pounds, 135 pounds. You would never melt that down. A collector would probably pay like, I don't know, 100 million?
What?
Like at a big auction, like who knows?
In the end, Brazil was quite enticing to Parker because the country has spent the last few decades or so developing into a billion-dollar industry that he just had to tap into.
Foi no túnel ali da Colosso. Só que eles roubaram milhões de toneladas de ouro nosso, num túnel que eles fizeram de lá pra cá.
Apparently, millions of tons of gold was stolen from what is known as the Colossal Tunnel. This was a big blow to the company that developed that mining site because they had spent hundreds of millions of dollars working on their mining activities there, only to go bankrupt at the end of the day. Probably one of the worst investments ever, now that we think about it.
Colossus, a big mining company, spent $300 million developing that mine site and then went bankrupt.
After a long drive, Parker and his crew made their way to this mine. However, they would be left a bit worried when they got there because it had been barricaded and sealed off. Not wanting to give up, Parker and his team tried to get some information about the mines from some of the local miners that must have worked in these mines when it was still operating. To their dismay, they found out these local miners had been keeping guard over the mines ever since it was sealed, almost a decade ago. Turns out, they felt that they had been robbed by the owners of the mines, and they have sealed the place off so that no one can go in. As Parker and his crew found themselves in this strange situation, they did what they could to negotiate with these miners to see if they could be given access to the mines. They'd find that all pleas to enter would fall on deaf ears, even if they only wanted to take a peek at what was left inside the mine. Although one of the elderly miners was reluctant to give in to their requests, he decided that he was going to intercede on their behalf.
Senhor, mas essa posicionamento, a gente não tem nada a ver com isso.
Não,
a gente queria só olhar de curiosidade mesmo.
Exatamente.
Digo, será possível só por essa vez entrar com carro?
To see if the other miners would give them access into the mines. With any luck, this would allow Parker to see where the owners of the Colossus minerals made their mistakes. At least that way, they won't repeat it if they got to work in these mines. There must be a huge opportunity waiting for them in these mines. Hopefully, the miners would let them in without a fuss. To their relief, The miners did grant them their request, albeit with a condition. They can only go in with one of their cars. At this point, the team followed their leader as they made their ways through the property, which reminded them of an old Soviet Union camp. Interesting. What does this have to do with the times in which the representatives of Colossus tried to drill underneath the Sierra Pelada for the gold that must have been somewhere beneath the geographical structure? Now, a lake, the team was fascinated by the tale of the activities of these miners back in the day, especially as these miners claimed that they were never able to get any gold out of the mines. Don't tell that to the local miners though, because they are convinced that Colossus did find gold when they were exploring these mines back in 2007. They believe that Colossus decided to lie because they didn't want to share the proceeds of their activities in those mines with the thousands of people that call this place home, especially as these people actually hold the rights to these mines in the area. Hopefully, Parker can avoid making a mistake in his camp, especially when they heard that Colossus paid something between $250 million to $300 million. Somehow the company went bankrupt, and despite racking his brains as he thought about the matter, Parker couldn't see how it was possible that this made Colossus bankrupt. He had to get to the bottom of this mystery and fast, if he was going to invest his time and money on Colossus, especially as the locals believed that they found the main vein for gold in these mines. As much as such things worried them, Parker and his crew couldn't help but admire the old buildings found in the mine site.
Wow, this looks very sketchy.
Super sketchy. It looks like a zombie apocalypse.
I want to check out some of these buildings. There's a tunnel somewhere.
Eager to learn some more about what may have happened to those who were working there back in the day, Parker and his team thought that it might be best to explore these abandoned buildings. At least that way, they could look into the tunnel that could be found beneath the pit. To be honest, the place seemed to be quite spooky as they went through the land.
Pretty hard.
Definitely not like good vibes in here.
No.
Soon, Danny and Diego came across an abandoned processing site. Eager to see if they could find any signs that gold was processed there, they decided to take a gander by exploring the building. After all, nobody was going to invest $300 million into a place without getting any returns, and this would be the first place one would think to check for clues of mining activities in the mine. Unfortunately, the pair saw that they had to go into the building with something to keep them healthy.
I wonder what was this? Like the testing, like do they process?
Yeah.
How many money they put in this?
300 million.
You see, the abandoned building isn't so abandoned. It is now occupied by bats who have no problem leaving their feces all over the place. It cannot be safe to inhale the fumes that come off these fecal material, so the pair felt that it may be best to get their face masks on if they were going to continue exploring the abandoned processing building. Now, ready to face the stench of the place, the pair re-entered the building. Before long, they would be left in a state of utter shock as they came across something that took their breath away. Wary, Danny got out his handy pocket knife. You're never truly sure that you are not in danger in such a place. As Danny and Diego came to terms with their shocking discovery, Parker and Larissa were having a discussion at another part of the mining site. They had come across a building that made them theorize about what may have taken place in the building in the past. Upon coming across some foundational pillar, they figured that this place may have also been used to process the gold that they may have found in the area. Apparently, the foundation pillars may have been put in place so that they could accommodate crasher circuits, conveyors, and mills. That said, Parker is certain that they were almost able to complete their crashers before Colossus went bankrupt, thanks to the photos of the crashers that he had seen. These images also showed that Colossus had actually invested a ton of money into the construction of this massive structure. We can only guess this is where a huge chink of the $300 million went to. Standing as perhaps the crown jewel of the lot, Colossus must have been proud when they took a look at their massive rock-crushing mill, an equally massive cyanide processing plant, as well as a gold room. Pretty impressive, right? Especially as they got the main parts of the mill going. That said, one cannot deny that somehow this place deteriorated to what it is today. This allowed it to become a place that people exploit for parts. Well, today, as Parker and Larissa continued with their exploration of the site, they found that the place was truly deserted. Looking at the markings on the walls, one would think that this was a post-apocalyptic building, especially as these markings were associated with the mafia and other underground elements that one could find in a place like Brazil.
CV, it's like the biggest organized crime groups in Brazil.
Oh, really? Like, what are they?
There were even marks that declared that an assassin may have actually completed his mission. Truly grim stuff.
They're like big international corporations, but they're gonna...
That like run drugs and stuff?
Perhaps what may be more important about the markings on the wall was that some of the gangs that were represented by these marks were involved in illegal smuggling of gold from mines in Brazil.
Drugs, arms, and they're involved in pretty much every type of businesses because they need to launder money.
Clearly, they were making their presence known to anyone who dared try to take their turf from them. That way, they could also use the mines to launder money.
What are the numbers?
There are some phone numbers. Here it says, tudo assassinado, all dead. And then you see, like here, maybe these guys were like...
As Parker and Larissa come to terms with what may have been going on in such a place back in the day, Danny and Diego found that the shocking thing that they ran into in the abandoned building was what seemed to be the carcass of a dead, decaying animal. Gross. As they ducked their heads due to the many bats that flew all over the place, Danny and Diego had to admit that this was one of the spookiest places that they had ever been to. Unfortunately, they were unable to tell if any gold was ever processed in the building, especially as they lacked the required tools to look into the activities that may have taken place in such a building.
Oh my God, this place. Who the off?
Oh, there's a lot of bats in there, man.
At that point, they were just glad that some ghost or phantom did not attack them like it would in some horror movie.
This is one of the spookiest places I've ever been.
To them, they were already in a horror movie that must have been written for Colossus.
There's no proper evidence of mining.
Because they couldn't imagine how much of a disaster it must have been for Colossus to invest in such a mess.
If you'd have told Colossus when they started their project that $300 million was going to buy them this.
Eventually, though, the pair came to the tunnel. Once both parties reported their findings to each other, the group decided that their next course of action was to see what may be hidden within those tunnels. Well, their exploration of the dark, mysterious cave proved to be as exciting as the team could imagine. What a cool tunnel. The group soon started wondering if this was indeed where the miners used to transport their gold back in the day. As much as they would love to believe that they were walking through such a mine which was used by hardworking gold miners back in the day, they would need some evidence that they even found gold there to begin with. You see, the team strongly believes in the existence of such a gold vein because of the accounts that they've got before they made their way to this mysterious place. Apparently, the gold miners dug up millions of dollars worth of this gold with their hands from the infamous gold vein. Unfortunately, this came to an end when a flood prevented the miners from getting into this place filled with gold. $3 billion worth of it. Eager to get to this gold, the team knew that they had to get to the end of the tunnel. That was the only way they would be able to confirm that there was any gold in the area in the first place. As exciting as the prospect of this adventure was, the so-called adventure came to a sudden stop when they came across some floods within the tunnel. As such, Parker saw that he and the team would have to do some research in order to know what happened to the tunnel and the gold that is supposed to be there. After all, Colossus had spent close to $250 million building this place. It didn't make any sense that they did so if there wasn't any gold in the area. It also didn't make sense that they would spend so much money building this place, only to stop when it was almost complete. Eventually, the team got to the other side of the tunnel, where a massive structure immediately caught their attention. Although they couldn't determine exactly what it was, the team decided to climb to the top of it. Once they got there and took in the magnificent view, Danny suggested that one of them should scuba dive into the water underneath them. That way, they could collect samples that could help them determine if there was any gold down there. Parker was skeptical about going down there himself, so he suggested that they made use of ROVs, which would be safer for the entire team. As such, they realized that they may have to bring someone in to carry out this mission. Exciting stuff, especially as Parker agreed to pay for it. Let's just make sure that they don't spend $2 million on this job. All this was being done to see if Colossus ever got to get to the gold deposits down there. Again, no one would spend so much money on such a project, only to abandon it when they were almost done. Nah, something was suspicious about this place, and Lord knew they were going to get to the bottom of this mystery. To them, that may be the only way they could see if this place was worth the gold that was supposed to be there. 2 days later, Parker and the rest of the team met so that they could discuss how they could go about finding out if that $3 billion gold deposit actually existed in the pit in the gold rush town in Brazil. To do this, he tried to deduce how Colossus got bankrupt. Maybe this was due to the amount of money that they had to spend to carry on with their business in the mines and the fact that they experienced a lot of troubles when it came to their political dealings in the area. Maybe these troubles emerged because many of the locals, and perhaps those overseas, thought that Colossus did find their way to the rich vein of gold that could be found in this pit, but chose not to share the news with the local mining cooperative. Nasty stuff if you ask us here at the channel. That said, nobody making such claims can prove that this was how things happened.
It sounds like that Colossus went bankrupt. And I'm guessing that it was like a combination of them running out of cash and like knowing that they were in a corner because of how they dealt with the politics.
As such, Parker and many others who have heard about this place strongly believe that the gold must be down there. In order to get to the bottom of this mystery, Parker decided to send an underwater drone into the tunnel. That way, they could see if Colossus was truly able to get to the gold vein that is said to be at the bottom of the lake. Perhaps depending on the results, Parker and his team will then send the machine into the lake so that they could see if there was any evidence of gold left within the lake. Once they came to this conclusion, the team decided to invite Buck Storm and Chris Covey to their camps. This was a great move because the pair were the underwater drone specialists that the team needed to push onto the next phase of their gold hunting activities in Brazil.
Morning, folks. Hey, guys.
Morning.
Buck Storm
How you doing?
and Chris Covey
Hey, guys.
Hey, mate.
How you doing, Parker?
are underwater drone specialists.
Once they got to the mining site, the pair brought out their impressive equipment.
So we're kind of trying to figure out what's been going on. People say the gold got smuggled out by Colossus. I don't really know what happened.
As soon as the pair arrived, they were briefed as to why they were there and how they were going to help the team with their work.
So you guys are paying in gold nuggets, right?
Only if you find them.
Yes, that's one benefit about ROVs, man.
Ready to get to work, they began starting up their remote-controlled submersible that could dive about 1,000 feet. With the cameras attached to it, they would be able to get a live feed of what the machine comes across in the tunnel. Add the fact that it has manipulator arms that could help the team get their hands on samples, and one would find that this is indeed the perfect machine for their mission in the tunnel. They had to make use of this opportunity to find the gold that must be down there. Once they got to the point of the tunnel where it was flooded, the team deduced that they would need to send the machine some 900 or so feet into the flooded area so that they could have a chance at reaching the vein. That way, they may even have a chance at collecting the samples of materials that may be down there. With any luck, this may help the team find the gold that they traveled all the way to Brazil to get their hands on. Imagine the excitement as the team watches the machine when it dove into the murky floodwater. After running into several cables and metal pieces from the old ventilation system, the machine continued going deeper despite a lack of visibility in the water. Before they knew it, the team realized that their $50,000 ROV was stuck on something within the water. Will they be able to sort this problem so that they could make their way to the gold that may be at the end of this tunnel? Only time will tell as Parker makes a trail to the bounty of gold that is hidden somewhere in this massive tunnel. From exploring an abandoned mining site that is said to have access to $3 billion worth of gold, to overcoming the several obstacles that stand in their way as they make their way to the gold, here is how Parker Schnabel took over a $300 million bankrupt mine in Brazil.